Welcome to the Disinformation Tech Podcast, where we explore the role that technology plays in both spreading and combating disinformation.
We didn't try to use fake news. It's become a tool of war.
The kind of conversation around AI overlooks the issue of misinformation.
Next for AI and disinformation.
It's one of my areas of greatest concern.
Facebook and Google advertising linked to disinformation.
Disinformation.
Fake news.
Fake news.
Fake news.
Fake news.
Fake news.
Fake news.
Well, a new venture aims to help people navigate through fake news on social media.
So one North Carolina startup is working to help people sort through all the clutter and get to the facts.
Fighting fake news and misinformation. His app is called Logically.
Can artificial intelligence fix the fake news problem? Well, a new online news startup called Nowhere is betting on it.
Authenticate works such that it fingerprints the video as it's being recorded and then writes those fingerprints to a blockchain record.
Factiverse. Our product instantly fact checks any claims made.
The only thing that can filter AI is AI. Introducing Vigilant, the first real-time AI truth checker.
When it's moving at a scale that humans can't manage on their own, we need to bring intelligent machines into the picture.
All right, hey everyone. So today we are with Daniel Ravner. I don't want to spend too much on the introduction. I think the main reason people listen to podcasts is so they can get to know who the guest is. What we're trying to do here, real quick though, is just talk to people who are working on technology in the disinformation space. In particular, talk to people who are trying to combat that problem and put tools in place that maybe lead to better journalism or help companies or governments kind of stop malicious narratives. Having said all of that, without further ado, I think the best person to explain what they're doing over at Brinker is going to be Daniel himself. So Daniel, how are we doing?
Very good. Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me. And I appreciate the reaching out and appreciate the time and the stage that you're allowing us.
Absolutely. So first, Daniel, I would like to ask, and I think it's something that you would probably agree is a good way to start. What is disinformation? What is misinformation? Kind of how do you frame that?
Well, the major difference is that disinformation is when somebody knowingly lies, maliciously and proactively comes up with a story in order to influence state of mind, public perception, so that would be intentional. Misinformation is when somebody's sharing a lie or fake news or whatnot, but they don't know it's a lie. As far as they're concerned, it's the truth. And that's the main difference.
Okay, all right. And we see the headlines, we see the news. Everyone's probably familiar with the disinformation buzzword, the fake news buzzwords, misinformation, malinformation. We hear about biases and different news outlets kind of point fingers at one another, and everyone's covered this in some way, whether it's far from the left, far from the right, center. Everyone talks about on this topic. But this is something that obviously has a long history. It's not like it's anything that's new. So if you had to explain, to you, how you see the history of disinformation, misinformation, malinformation, or the origin of it, how far back does this go? Is this a new problem?
It's as old as time itself. I would argue, the Trojan Horse, probably one of the earliest known cases of disinformation, where something that was meant to look like a prize or a present was actually a way for a soldier to infiltrate their enemy. Down the line, you have Marie Antoinette, the French Revolution, where she said, "If let them eat cake," which is in itself probably fake. But in that case, you had the revolutionaries wanted to create negative sentiments against the elite, and they turned Marie Antoinette into the symbol of everything that's wrong with the country. And that was not the case. I think now in France there is an attempt to reframe her story, but that would have been disinformation. People were paid to be in bars and talk loudly about how horrible she is, how corrupt she is. You have the case of the witch hunt. anywhere between 50,000 to 200,000 women in Europe died in horrible ways because of the witch hunt, because of a book that came out was completely misogynistic, and it went from Europe all the way to Salem.
Yep.
So again, there are countless other examples, definitely in our time, definitely in the Cold War. So that part of geopolitical relationships, where countries use disinformation, misinformation to influence that war, what would be considered soft power, that has been around forever. What has changed recently is the fact that you're getting everything to your hand all the time, every day. So if in the past, the disinformation was part of the discussion, part of the information that you would have received, but right now you can get 100%. You can live your whole life with 100% disinformation that you would probably agree with more, that would feed into your psyche much better. So the technology allows for disinformation to be much faster, much more effective, and I think it's imploding societies. I mean, disinformation is the biggest problem in the world right now, definitely according to me, because I'm along with my two partners, I've started a startup around it. But according to the World Economic Forum, according to the UN, #1 problem. Look, wherever you put your hands on the globe, you will see polarization. You would see extremists getting center stage. You would see democracies under danger. And because of this information today, all of the other important issues cannot advance as well, because even something like climate change becomes a politicized issue. So currently we're at the point where if we don't curb it, we will continue on the downward spiral that we are on. For me, it's unmistakable. I don't think it's a personal impersonation of the world. I think this is how it feels to many people.
Yeah, I would have to say I can't agree more. That's a good summary and start. Yeah. So whenever I look at history personally, you see people like Adolf Hitler, historical figures, and individuals like Hitler. The thing that made them so dangerous is, to me anyway, it seems to be what made them the most dangerous, is they didn't have the ability to convince bad people to do bad things necessarily. They had the ability to convince good people to do bad things, a lot of good people to do bad things. And I think part of that was obviously fear, force, but I think some aspect of it is they, by altering people's perceptions of reality, finding a scapegoat in society, they were able to affect people's morality. So you lead people to believe that there's this group of people who are the cause of all of your economic suffering, and now those people who are otherwise good believe that there's almost something conspiratorial happening that needs to be resolved, and they do bad things, even though they might otherwise be good people.
I think what Hitler and Goebbels did well, I mean horribly and well, is that they allowed good people to keep on seeing themselves as good people while participating or not stopping horrible things from happening. And the way they've done it is that they've caused huge populations of people, be it Jews, gays, gypsies, whatnot. They allowed people to see them as subhumans or non-humans. So a person was able to hurt them without feeling he's being inhumane because they're subhumans. And again, I would add that a lot of the lessons learned in Nazi Germany is being deployed currently, in most advanced liberal Western countries around the world as we speak.
It goes to show, if you can alter someone's perception of reality, can change their behavior in a negative way. And I think we would all be naive if we said that any one of us was invincible to disinformation. I'm sure I've probably found something online, thought it was interesting, shared it with a loved one or a friend or something without putting much thought into it. But I think it's important we try to minimize the amount of times we do that, and at least try and be more critical.
And it's because disinformation works well with human nature.
Yes.
Right? Because if you're having a fight with somebody about an issue that you care about, and now you care about everything because everything is polarized, right? So it could be about Trump, it could be about Netanyahu, it could be about Brexit, it could be about, choose your hot topic. Because you are constantly being exposed to the same point of view, because that's what social media does to you, right? So if in the beginning you're saying, listen, I think that something is slightly more toward that side on the moral scales, then by the end of the day, you've seen 20 people who are saying, listen, this is horrible, and to think otherwise, you have to be an idiot anymore. So you become polarized at the span of a few hours. And then it becomes part of your identity. So if somebody would present other evidence to you about something that is not part of your identity, it's going to become that much harder, to the point of impossible, to move away from that, because it's not a political discussion that we're having. It's about, you're asking me to change who I am. Again, climate change would be an example. Where do you stand on vaccines would be an example. Where do you stand on specific, Russia, Ukraine, Israel, Gaza. So the ability to talk, to allow complexity into a discussion about things that are nothing but complex is eliminated. So again, but in part, it really talks to human frailty. To we don't want to change our identity. We don't want to change our group. If myself and everybody who are part of my group, we're not a group by blood, we're not a group by necessarily by feet. Let's say that in a good scenario, all of us are part of the same group that really are huge fans of a specific sports group, right? So that's our ideas or our views is the glue that holds us together. So if our glue is a polarized opinion, or not a polarized, an extreme opinion about something that is political, for me to change my mind or even open my mind to that other point of view against disinformation in that case threatens my sense of security, because I will no longer be part of the group.
Right.
And couple that with social media, digital economy, online, then all of those mechanisms are being hyper
exacerbated
in a major way. And this is why, there is a new subject very fast, who's the good guy, who's the best guy according to your point of view. And disinformation influence campaigns really, really works well now, because, an influence campaign rarely is about something that is completely fake. Fake news is not that big of an issue, because most malicious actors would find what is already in discussion, what is already sensitive to a society, and they will double down on that issue.
It's definitely a problem. I would agree with you. That's one reason why I wanted to start trying to talk to people in this space and begin a conversation with like-minded people and people who are trying to put forth solutions. It's one thing to just talk about these things, to know it's a problem, but it's another thing entirely to do something about it. And I think there's a space for discourse and conversation. Conversation, after all, is it's all that we have in many cases. But your team, you're taking a practical approach. I've had a chance to deeply research what you and your team are doing, and I think it's extremely impressive. And I want to share that. You guys have put together quite an impressive list of defenses that can help brands, help governments. So tell us what I know it's a tough thing to describe in a short amount of time. We only have so much time, but what is Brinker? If you had to give us just like a quick explanation of Brinker. What is Brinker?
So Brinker is a holistic platform that allows you to fight influence and disinformation. We're doing three main things. The first one is collection. So we can bring information from all across the web, open web, social media, news sources into one place. And we have an unusually broad collection. The second part is the automated investigation. So most fighting against misinformation, disinformation today is still mostly manual. So if nothing else, just the ability to scale it up and automate much of it will allow you to fight the scale at which the problem is coming at you. So, so our second part is investigation. We are a narrative intelligence company, which means that before we look at the very Boolean specific distinct area of metadata of what time was the post launched, who's connected to it, etc., we look at what people are saying. And you're trying to find who else is telling the same story. And the same story, when you have a disinformation attack, would not appear in the same way necessarily. Different people will have their opinion in very different ways, whether they are fake people, bots, avatars, or authentic people, or swept away in this influence campaign. So we would be able to automatically understand what's discussion, what discussion might be problematic to the community, to your brand, to your organization, etc., and then break it down to specific stories. And then for either one of those stories, at the press of a button, you will get a huge amount of information. And again, the moment it's uploaded, you don't have to wait. So because the AI will do most of the investigation for you, so you will be able to know where did it come from? Did it start in another language? What platforms did it cross along the way? What's the chronology of it? Who was the first? Who was the second? So that would be the investigation, right? So we had collection, we had investigation. The third part is mitigation. So we would look at the findings of the automated investigation and come up with various mitigation options. So one might be a pre-legal approach, where our default is to create a cease and desist letter, which, especially in the world of racism, where you're dealing with bullies who are not afraid to show themselves, many times if they'll get a legal document saying that if you don't stop, we're going to take legal means, in most cases that would stop them. Another would be approaching the media, creating awareness, because creating awareness for the fact that you might be manipulated is a very good way to stop the manipulation. We're also performing takedowns. We are also, we have a counter narrative feature where based on a proprietary methodology that uses behavioral psychology to create counter narratives, because if you're coming at an angry map with facts, it wouldn't help.
Mm-hmm.
If you have an emotionally intelligent response, it might lower the levels of the fire, and that might help. So that's another mitigation. And we're constantly working on more and more mitigations. We're constantly making, everything is, we were a startup. We are in constant movement. And I would say, again, the story for Brinker is that we are born after the Gen AI revolution. So we're built towards these capabilities of AI from the get-go. AI didn't happen to us. And that allows us to develop some things fairly fast. And we believe that we are ready for the agentic AI revolution, which is, the second wave of the AI, the AI change in the industry. Anyway, so that's very broadly what it is that we do.
Yeah, no, so super fascinating. I know the thing that stood out to me from the first conversation that we had, it was how much you can actually do if you find yourself the subject of a disinformation campaign. I didn't realize how many options were available and how many tools were on the table to actually navigate through that crisis, if you will. And so I think it's good for companies to know. I think it's good for governments to know that there are options, right? You don't have to be completely helpless. You don't have to just watch it happen. And there are people like yourself and companies like Brinker that can help you navigate around that problem. I've definitely seen it. I've worked for a company that's had a disinformation campaign, so to speak, kind of launched against it. I won't go into it, but essentially it was a situation where the company bought and sold a given type of vehicle, and there were manufacturer defects with the vehicle. And even though they were, more of a dealer, more in the dealer space, people were blaming the dealer instead of directing their attention to the real problem, which was actually the manufacturer of the vehicle. And the dealer was actually at no fault. I mean, there was no way for the dealer to know these vehicles were bad. And so you could go up against that with facts, like you said, but really what you're dealing with is an angry buyer, someone who's not happy with what it is that they have and what it is that they bought, and you have to counter that with an understanding of psychology. In many cases you can't just counter it with the information, and you also have to have some sympathy for where they're coming from.
I can tell you about research that we have performed with the CRC, Cyber Influence Research Center in Berlin. So we found, I think the number was 180 videos of what looked like a regular auto review video. And we found within those videos that there were trends of criticism against US economy, against Trump. There were, and again, very cleverly set, and over time, there was also driving people away to say that there are other cars from other countries that would, for the same amount of money, you will get much, much, much more. But the sheer size of those videos, the fact that they all shared similar narrative, the fact that there's something about production that felt very similar between one and the other one, they would be disparate, but when you would see them together, you would realize, it's the same kind of production language. And in the end, this was a disinformation campaign created by a state actor trying to hurt Western automobile brands. And without being able to track the narrative across the entire web, across the chaos of the web, you wouldn't be able to make the dots and say, all right, there is something coordinated here. But again, in this case, as with many of the use cases that we're dealing with, it's not just about angry customer. This is somebody deliberately trying to create a state of mind about an industry.
It's interesting. So you're seeing you're up to a lot. I did notice that I don't know if there is any more, if this is still a component of what you guys do, but I did notice there's a Splunk app or a Splunk component to at least some of what you guys have done in the past.
We have various integrations because, we were not born into the world existed before us, and for the clients to be able to use this easily, and for us also, just from a standpoint of a for-profit company that wants to make it easier to buy us. So we are allowing different integrations, pretty much, according to the demands that are coming from customers. Customers come in, they say, listen, we love what we do, but we have our own SOC center. We have our own SIEM application. We just need an API for this and that. So we are, again, as startups do, what we make up in size, what we lack in size, we make up in flexibility. And we have built various integrations to allow customers to use those insights in a way that makes sense into their existing workflow.
Nice, and I think that's needed. So it's good to hear that you guys are adaptive and willing to work with clients on a one-on-one basis. I did have to say I found a lot of insight in the logo and your explanation of the logo on our last call. I had to ask, there's this logo of this hand that's pointing, and it's a cool logo. It's kind of catchy, but you can't help but look at it and wonder if there's something more behind it. So, could you tell us a little more about the logo and how you came to the logo for Brinker?
Yeah, sure. So there is a famous Danish fable, and again, for some reason, where I grew up, it was famous also here, about the little boy with his finger in the dam, right? So the story is about a little boy who walks at night and he sees that there is a hole leaking water, and his village is downhill, and he hopes that if he wouldn't put his finger in the hole, stop the leakage, then it might become a huge break and then flood, and then flood the whole village. So he puts his finger, he's a little boy and he's brave, and he's putting his finger and he stays there all night and he saves the village. So that's his story. There is a statue around it. It's known. It's fairly known, not everywhere, but it's fairly known. And this boy's name was Hans Brinker. So we took the name from Brinker from him. We've taken the logo from that idea of trying to stop the flood. We've recently released, it's still in beta, an AI agent, and we've decided to call him Hans. And this is kind of how it all came together, and that's the logo, and that's our name as well, Brinker.
So it's this idea, based on this idea that if you see a problem, you should do something.
You should do something, and also the idea that there is a flood and there is an online poison that is kind of overflowing, which I think everybody feels, and also this idea that you can do something about it. I think we're still at the position in the world where the most advanced of governmental entities understand that they can know much more. But still, this idea of being able to mitigate it, that is still developing the world of mitigation. And our approach to it says that there's no silver bullet. I mean, there's no one solution. Here is how you stop disinformation. Because the people you're playing up against have been doing that for many, many years. They're playing the long game, and you just showed up. So we think the way to deal with it is by creating a variety of tools, which is a lot like cyber, really. Building a variety of tools, making them accessible at the press of a button within the context of cyber, within the context of defense, and allowing whoever needs it to play around with those different levers. Because again, the pre-legal solution is great with racism for the NGO use case, but doesn't carry a lot of value if you're being attacked by a state, because who are you going to sue? But there, the takedown option would make a lot of sense. And there is that everything in between. It depends on when do you become aware of the influence campaign? Because if it's early enough, which is part of what we're offering, you can also educate the public, let them know that something is coming. Be aware of that. So you should have different mitigation options, and this is a major focus for us.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to ponder and consider that you could have a narrative brewing and not even know that it's out there. There's so many different platforms now. I mean, I don't need to rattle off all the platforms. I think everybody knows the big names, but it's always interesting to me, outside of X, outside of TikTok, outside of Facebook, outside of all of these big household names, at least over here, in the US, I still encounter these new platforms, or I'll hear someone talk about a new social media platform or a new group or website online, and you cannot possibly monitor what's being said about about you as a person or about a brand. You can't do it all on your own. I mean, the only way really to have an alert of some kind of narrative that's spreading about you, or to really track and put a hand on that, is with technology. So we see bots, we see bot farms come up. We're seeing deep fakes, obviously AI generated content now. Before, there was a point in time whenever all of this had to be human generated. Now that's no longer the case, so that can exacerbate the problem. If you had to list something you're most concerned about, or technology that you're most concerned about, would it be deep fakes? Would it be bots, the emergence of bot farms and bot accounts? Or I know it's a hard thing. I know they're all pretty bad, but what might you be most concerned about if you had to pinpoint something?
I'm most concerned about people, really.
The people behind it, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm most concerned about politicians, making use of disinformation tools, and I'm most concerned about humans being really eager to adapt some truth because it caters to their sense of wholeness, of morality. I would say that, you know, at the end, it's people. There are actually, I don't remember his name, but I heard something interesting for somebody who, Neil deGrasse Tyson. So I saw something of him, which kind of, again, I don't know, you know, how to address it, but it's interesting enough for that to stay with me for a few days now. He said that we're getting to a point where there's going to be so much fake images, fake bots on social media that people would stop believing it altogether. People would know that whatever you're looking at is probably not real. So the whole trust level there is around social media is going to explode. I don't know if this is going to be this case, but I think it's a valid, interesting point, which would kind of take us back into more conservative media, which I think is still much more important than what people seem to give it credit for. But, you know, the malicious actors, if they've been anything, is that they're being a step ahead always in their ability to kind of figure out what's coming up next and make use of it. So again, as far as what I'm concerned about, it has to do more with people and what humanity is able to do and how far will it go before it realize, listen, we've gone too far. Yeah. So
yeah. You know, it's definitely true that to me it's harder to trust things. You know, I see AI content in my feeds. A lot of times you can tell, sometimes you can't, and I've found myself frequently now having to go and fact check a video. Did this natural disaster in the world actually happen? Whereas previously, if you saw a natural disaster video or something online, you could say it would pretty well, pretty good certainty that it was probably real. Now it seems there's an emergence of people creating these extreme videos just to try and get clicks because they know if they see a bridge collapsing or something like that online, they're going to click on it and watch and see if it's real news.
Going back to that, I would say two things. I would say that, you know, for us as a technological company, you know, we have the ability, and this is something that we will keep on improving and optimizing as things will change, is the ability to track it when it's as early as possible, find it wherever that is, you know, the same video, and then try to take it down wherever it is, or trying to help the client come up with a counter narrative as fast as possible. So that's very much on the tactical level. But if we go down to the individual points of view, in many cases, even with AI, it's a very simple question. You have to ask yourself, what is the intent? Somebody created content, somebody put a content in front of me, somebody shared the content. What is their intent? Because they want me to believe them, because they want to rile me up, because they want, I mean, and when you go down to intent, I think it becomes very clear where something is, you know, especially with something that is preposterous. Like, all right, I can't believe it's true. So if you can't believe it's true, stop. Might not be true before you share it, before you do more with it. Yeah. Anyway, so I think intent would always be, you know, even an analyst, an intelligence analyst, we have quite a few of them in the company who are highly experienced. When they're looking online, they wouldn't look for is it real or not real. That wouldn't be their first initial search. The first initial understanding of if something is real or not would be almost instinctive. Why is somebody putting something online? Why is somebody saying something online? Who are they connected to? I mean, a lot of logical questions would allow you to know fairly fast if something is disinformation or influence. And then you have all of the tactical moves that you can do.
It's interesting. Would you say that the first 48 hours of a post, or first 48 hours of disinformation coming online is an important time period? I know in the U.S. we actually have we used to, I don't know if it still airs, but we had a TV show called The First 48, where they would follow around law enforcement, they would follow around detectives, and the theme there is if you can't get a grasp on what the criminal's doing in that first 48 hours after the crime, then you kind of lose some ground. You lose some ability to track them down and catch them. So how important is that first initial post, those first few followers?
That's all the difference between your ability to mitigate something and not mitigate something. Now, by the way, remember that the first 48 hours are often, could be a year before the influence campaign starts. With most influence campaigns, especially the good ones, again, good on a professional level, not necessarily on the moral level, they don't start when they need to exert influence. In most influence campaigns, the malicious actor would join groups, would create groups about baking, would create groups about nationalism, would create groups about 100 different things that are not related to the subject they would actually end up promoting. So the first 48 hours could be a full year before you're seeing anything. So, and when a story becomes live and huge and viral, that's much harder to, I mean, you can tackle it, you can do something, but definitely you're never completely helpless. But the first 48 hours could be really long, a long time before anybody else notices it. But again, I think the help of AI technology, you can look at historical data, look at how people have done other things. You can look at metadata as far as connections and who's in a group with whom, and you can definitely, as said, you can definitely see who's telling a story, find the similarities, start creating clusters, and start following them. So yeah, it's I would even say it's the first negative 48 hours, the time before step one.
That's interesting. That's interesting. So if I understand correctly, it sounds like a lot of your more advanced influence campaigns, they start by building these what they call in the cybersecurity world sock accounts, which are just sock puppet accounts, like a fake sock puppet that you might have played with whenever you were a kid. But they create these fake accounts, these fake personas online, and in a lot of cases maybe create groups, build trust with that group and with the followers of the account. And they may do that. They may do the legwork for that for say a year, 2 years before starting to try and influence those groups. Is that correct?
That is correct. This is something that we've seen around the Russian-Ukraine war. We've seen that around the Romanian election. This is usage. So this idea of you first mobilize a demographic and then you weaponize a demographic. So during the mobilization, you might talk about sharing recipes. You might talk about cats, you might talk about sports, you might talk 100 different things, but you would create the credibility of the avatar, you would find a group, you would create a group, you will infiltrate the group, and base yourself in it, and only on D-Day you would start creating those messages that you were, the campaign was created to promote.
It's interesting. Okay, yeah. So I would definitely have to agree with you on ultimately the most concerning piece of this being the people behind it. So your website describes just this tsunami or this flood of disinformation and you say whether it's an individual or an organization or a government, you can help them. If I'm an individual and I feel like I'm being bullied online, or I have a kid or son or daughter in school, I feel like they're maybe being bullied online, or I see there's some narrative about a loved one or myself. Is Brinker a company that could potentially help an individual, or are you guys mostly just focused with NGOs, governments, and larger companies?
So we are mostly focused on NGOs, governments. That would be, and again, we work with the banks, we work with some law agencies, we have that flexibility. We work with what's called high-profile individuals as well. We have taken cases on which are pro bono. So people finding their images running around social media, people who found out that they are starring in a campaign for a crypto app. So we've done that. We've done that mostly pro bono. So I would say that at large, the system is very much shaped around the use cases that come through the door, which are the ones I've used. But we've been, we want to be good people. We help to individuals. in the capacity that we can do that. So yeah, so yes, we can. It's not the nature of the corporation, but what we have and we will definitely.
I think that says a lot about you and your team. So obviously open source intelligence, open source investigation is something that you guys are using, just tapping into what's been made publicly available on the web, and trying to automate the process as much as possible. But it sounds like you guys have some actual analysts on hand. It's not like if you pay for Brinker services, you're not just paying for a tool. Is that correct? You also get...
No, you're paying just for a tool.
Okay.
The analysts that we have on board are very much leaning towards the product. So what their job is to listen to the client, and the client is the analyst. I mean, our clients are usually the analysts, social media analysts, the intelligence analysts, cyber analysts, threat intelligence analysts. Those would be our clients, the people on the ground who are doing the work. Their job is to listen to what it is that their use cases, understand how they use the system, most importantly, understand if something that they need is missing from the system, and then translate it to product. So they would say, for example, all right, so I'm, as an analyst, manually, how would I approach the problem that the user is facing? And then they would take that their methodology to the product, to the developers, and then developers would come up with a way to automate that that task. And that happens every day, a few times a day, over time. Some tasks take an hour to complete, some small features. Some would take months. It really depends. So we have, I think we have an amazing support, right? Because we're on top of it. And I think every startup has to have an amazing support, because we would only understand what needs to be built if we listen to our clients every day. It's not just about being gracious. It's not just about being customer support as a way to create stickiness. It really is about there are 50 things. If I had 500 developers and 2 years in an empty lab, I would have stuff to do. So as a startup, you always ask the question, so what's the priority? What's the roadmap? What are we doing tomorrow? And what are we not doing tomorrow? It's a more important question. And we try to find the answer to those questions from the client, not from anything that we think. We don't want to come up with an answer and then try to figure out who asked the question. And that link that turns clients' demands into features because they understand the manual process of the investigation, those are the analysts that we have.
I have said that's an interesting proposition. So before we wrap up, I want to first say thank you. I love what you guys are doing. I'm continually impressed. The more I talk to you, the more impressed I am. Just to kind of close us up, and kind of wrap things up, I'll say to anyone who's watching, what we're trying to do here is we're trying to highlight companies that are putting forth solutions, rather than just talk about the problems. We want to proactively support the companies that are trying to be a light against this disinformation and misinformation. But to kind of finish with a question, you've started on this path. Obviously, it's something you're passionate about. I think the passion shines through. It's easy to see that you're passionate about your work. Moving forward, what do you think the future holds for this space? What what technologies do you think we might see enabled that weren't previously possible? Obviously, technology is moving very fast these days, especially with artificial intelligence. And I know since I've been in this space, I have seen artificial intelligence become better at finding logical fallacies in text. I've seen it become better at pinpointing discrepancies of reasoning in text. And so looking forward on a positive note, what are you most excited about? What are you hopeful for going into the future?
So as far as AI, although it's a buzzword, I think this buzzword has, it has clout. It's really substantial, and we are at the onset of that revolution. So whatever the future might bring, I think AI is going to be a major part of it. And the point is not to use the AI off the shelf, because the AI off the shelf by nature, it's about generalization. It's about, the whole point of AI companies is to train AI specifically for specific tasks. First, on the logical / insight level, and talked about the future. The future is those agents that don't only provide better insight and allow you to digest data, they are also able to execute tasks based on it. So if you'll say, listen, I have the major head of another country coming to my country next month. What do you think are the risks associated with what narratives might come up? A narrative might be somebody's planning to protest or somebody's planning to hurt him. Can you please, automatically create the relevant environment, intelligence environment, find the best narrative, create a report, send the report to the relevant people, send the physical threat report to the police, send the other narrative report to our threat intelligence. So I think we're heading at a direction where I don't think AI would replace analysts and the creative thought that goes into it, definitely as malicious actors also get better all the time. But I think we will be able to automate as much as possible from the menial work, which I think would make up 80% of an analyst's time, allow them to use their creativity. And then, because again, right now, this is the disinformation war it's like a football match when only one group showed up and they're playing, an empty field. This is where we are still today. So even if we just align the playing field, if we level up the playing field, that would have been a huge jump forward. And I think the technology is there. I think that, again, the NGOs have already been there. I'm seeing more and more companies that are entering that field, a lot of them with their own specific niche. And I think that the power of the corporate, the power of the entrepreneurship spirit is something that really needs to be added to the NGO spirit in order to execute a real change. Because again, they're fairly different, and we need more of that spirit. Those companies, I'm seeing already that VCs are kind of leaning more towards that area, which is important because if it's more easy for me to get an investment, then it's more easy for me to get 5 more R&D people, and I can create better solutions faster, et cetera, et cetera. So the entire ecosystem is kind of building up around, and it's still nascent. Although the problem is burning up the world, although we are surrounded by unbelievable risks every day when you look at the news, the industry is still nascent. But I think we're seeing a fairly rapid movement forwards. Even the 2 years that Brinker has been alive, I can feel it. The market buzzing around us. It's much different now than it was a year ago, and much different than it was 2 years ago. So again, so I feel that humanity at the end finds a way to save itself, hopefully, from this risk is by companies like us, and there are other wonderful companies in this space, and I think there is much work for all of us, honestly. So I hope that this entire industry will grow better. I hope that regulation would allow to make us life easier and drive societies away from danger. So I think regulation has a huge part in what we do, but it all fits into everything. What we're doing right now is another part of that link where we get more awareness to the problem, to the industry, to the solutions, then regulation. I mean, it moves together. it's yeah, that kind of so on the optimistic part, I can't help but hear the roar, and I think that humanity will step up.
I love it. I love it. Excellent closing, Daniel. Well, I am excited to watch where Brinker goes. See the good work you guys are doing. Thank you again. This is an awesome conversation to have. Truly honored. You have a good team, a good product, good service. And whenever I say, the more I talk to you, the more impressed I am. I really mean that. Coming into our conversations, I didn't realize how many tools are available and how much there is that someone can do. And that's a sign for hope. So if anyone's out there watching this, listening to this, and you've got a disinformation campaign that you want to put a hand on and understand on a deeper level and maybe take action, Brinker might be a good phone call to make. We'll put some links in the description below for anyone who is interested in learning more. And again, hopefully we can have you on at some point in the future. And again, I can't thank you enough, Daniel.
Zary, thank you very much for the platform, for the stage that you've given us, for your passion into, again, what we're doing, what the industry is doing. And I think it's important. I think it's an important part of this whole ecosystem. So thank you.